What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to use Varying Vagrant Vagrants, VVV for short, as part of your WordPress development workflow. So what is VVV? This is a community-based driven project that gives you a local web server that's specifically tailored for WordPress development. It's great if you want to develop your WordPress themes. It's great if you're looking to develop WordPress plugins, and if you want to be a contributor to the core of WordPress itself. Now, there's a bunch of options out there on the market. There's the typical ones like MAMP, WAMP, and XAMPP. There's others like Desktop Server. There's Local by Flywheel. There's Docker. And you could also just create a Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP local server in a virtualized box if you wanted. There's a lot of ways to get this done. But today I want to talk to you about this one, Varying Vagrant Vagrants, because I think it's a project that a lot of people should get familiar with, especially if you're working on WordPress-based projects. Again, local development is always ideal. That way you're not taking part in cowboy coding. That's when you're changing code on a production website. You always want to do your development on a local website, so that way whenever you make mistakes or if you have issues, you can correct it locally, and then once they're resolved, you could then deploy them to your production server. Alright, so let's take a look at this page over here. This is giving you some basic information about what this project is and some of the requirements. I'm going to walk you through all these steps over here, so that way you can get familiar with how to use this project. And it's compatible on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux distributions as well. So this is cross-platform compatible. Alright, so you're going to need to download the software called Vagrant, and you're going to need a virtualization software, and the one that I use and a lot of people use is VirtualBox. So you get Vagrant from here. It's vagrantup.com. It's by the HashiCorp, and you download the version for your operating system. They have some documentation that you can take a look at, but pretty much you're just going to be downloading Vagrant. I already have it installed on my operating system, but it's just like any other installer. You download it, you choose your distribution. You're going to be choosing Windows 64-bit if you're on Windows. If you're on a Mac OS, you choose that version, or you could choose any of these other ones if you're on Linux. So you just download the MSI file if you're on Windows, or the DMG file if you're on Mac OS, or the zip file, or the tar.xz file for the other distributions, or the .deb file for Debian. They all have different extensions, but just download the version for your operating system. Once you do that, you'll just go through the prompts, just like installing any other typical piece of software. If you get any request to allow it based on your operating system security preference, just click allow. The next thing you're going to need is VirtualBox. So just go to virtualbox.org, and this is the actual main page right here. So you would just click the download VirtualBox. It'll take you to their download page over here. Let me increase the size of this window. And you would download the distribution for your operating system. So if you're on Windows, you'll download this over here. If you're on OS X, you'll choose this one. Or if you're on a Linux distribution, you'll choose this one right here. So make sure you have both of those downloaded and installed before moving to the next step. Now, if you're on Windows, you might have to go into your BIOS to make sure that your virtualization is enabled. And every manufacturer's BIOS settings are different, so you're going to want to check with the manufacturer of your computer to determine how to access your BIOS. Typically, you just restart your computer. You would press either F2 or delete, depending on how your system is set up. And then you'll get taken to the BIOS screen, and then you will navigate to wherever your specific BIOS has the virtualization option for you to check off. Now, the majority of people may not even have to do this step because virtualization is often turned on. But if it's turned off, then VirtualBox will not work, and hence VVV won't work as well. Now, another thing I recommend doing before anything else, if you're on Windows, I recommend getting and downloading the latest version of Git. And Git is version control software. Now, you do get this when you download or you start working with VVV, but I definitely recommend getting it beforehand, because you'll also get Git Bash, and Git Bash gives you a Linux-like terminal, which means it'll be easier for you to interact with VVV versus using the command prompt or Windows PowerShell. Now, if you don't want to use Git Bash and you just want to use command prompt, that's perfectly fine. They're compatible, but it's something that I recommend if you want to have a more Linux or Unix type experience. All right, so once you have everything downloaded, once you have Git downloaded, once you have Vagrant downloaded, and once you have VirtualBox downloaded, we can now move on to the next step. And actually, before we move on to the next step, I just want to mention that Varying Vagrant Vagrants, VVV, was created by a company called 10up. 10up is a large web design and development company, and they work with some of the biggest names online. And they created VVV for the sole purpose of improving their workflow. And then back, I believe it mentions here, if we go over here to the history, back in January of 2014, 10up made the decision to spin VVV off into its own organization to better align with the community that has grown around the project over time. So now VVV is a community-driven project, but it was initially created by the team at 10up. So that's part of the way that they give back to the community. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to open up Git Bash, or you can open up Command Prompt, and you're going to want to do this with administrator privileges. So for my purposes, I'll type out Git Bash, and all this is Windows specific. If you're on Mac OS or if you're on Linux, you could just use a sudo command when you're working in terminal. All right, so here I'll right click and I'll run as administrator. I'll get a prompt asking if I really want to do this, and I'll say yes. So now that we're here, what I'm going to do is type out Vagrant-V. And this will tell you if you already have Vagrant installed on your system, which you should already have if you already installed VirtualBox and Vagrant together. All right, so now the next step is you're going to want to make sure that you type out this command here, Vagrant plugin install Vagrant-host updater. I already ran this command before, so there's no need for me to run it again, but this is an important part to take. So definitely run this after you install VirtualBox, Vagrant, and confirm that you have Vagrant installed on your system. Once you do that, this will enable you to have your provisioned domains for your various local WordPress installations work on your site. All right, so just type out that command and press enter or return. Once you're done doing that, you're definitely going to want to reboot your computer. If you don't reboot your computer and you don't give it a full power cycle, everything might not work as it's supposed to. So definitely once you have VirtualBox Vagrant, you've confirmed the Vagrant's installed, and you typed out that command, the Vagrant plugin install Vagrant-host updater. After that process, reboot your computer and make sure to come right back to this video. All right, so if you've already rebooted your computer, welcome back to the video. The next step is actually installing VVV. And there's two ways to go about it. You can either clone it from GitHub, or you can download the zip file. Now, I definitely recommend using the cloning method, and you do that by typing out git clone -b master git github.com/varying vagrant vagrants/vvv.git, and then space, then the tilde sign /vagrant-local. So let me just double check that. Let me make the screen a little bit bigger. All right, so we're going to type out this command, git clone, make sure you have the space there, another space, then the -b, then space master, then space, then git ://github.com/vagrant-vagrants/vvv.git space tilde sign /vagrant-local. All right, so once you do that, you're going to be cloning the repository on GitHub. And what we could do is we can actually take this here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into my browser. And this is what you're going to be cloning right here. You could even click on this link right here, copy the pasteboard right there. All right, so let's go back here. So once you do that, it's going to be cloning VVV to your system. Now, depending on your internet connection, this can take a little bit of time, so let the process run its course. But once it's done, and again, I already have this set up on my system, but once it's done, we can now move on to the next steps. And let me show you where this is saved on your computer. So I'm going to open up a file explorer. And from here, and again, I'm on Windows, but you'll double click the C drive. You'll go to your user account. And then you're going to see here that you have this Vagrant-local folder. From here, this is the files that it created over here. Now you're going to have this file right here, the vvv-config.yml file. That's the configuration file. You're going to want to right click that, copy it, and then paste it, and then rename it into this file name right here, vvv-custom.yml. And the reason why you want to do that is so that way your custom configurations won't get overridden when VVV is updated. So definitely make that copy. And we're going to take a look at those files now. I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open a file. I'm going to navigate to that folder. And this is the standard vvv-config.yml file. This is a YAML file. All right, so as it mentions here, important, you want to copy this file to vvv-custom.yml so your changes don't get overridden when you update. And as always, YAML formatting is important, so you want to make sure that indenting is done properly. You want to indent in spaces and not tabs. All right, so if you navigate downwards, you're going to see that we have this section over here where it says sites. So we have 3 default installations here. We have the WordPress default, we have the WordPress develop. And if you're going to be contributing to the WordPress core, then you would uncomment this area in your vvv-custom.yml file. You would uncomment this and you would create that site for that one. All right, so now I'm going to open up the other file and show you my custom configuration here. So if you scroll down here, on the bottom, we see the VM configuration. The memory is set to 2048 and core is 1. Now on my custom YAML file, if we go up and we go to the site section, you're going to see that I have additional sites set up. So the way you do this is you just copy the default one and then you would create the additional sites. But this is getting ahead of ourselves. I don't want to do this as of yet because I don't want to confuse the process. So basically, the custom.yml file will look just like this one when you just copy it. And we're going to just work off of that for now. All right, so while Visual Studio Code does have a terminal emulator, we're not running this as administrator, so we're not going to be running the commands from here. I'm going to go back to my Git Bash because this is running in administrator mode. So from here, and if you're using command prompt or terminal on Mac OS, it's going to be the same command, so don't worry about it. But from here, you would type out the command from wherever you are, change directory, cd, vagrant-local. And press enter or return. And now you see you're going to be brought to the vagrant-local folder. Next, you can run the pwd present working directory or the dir command in command prompt. And it'll let you know exactly where you are. We're in the C drive, in the users folder, in my user folder, and the vagrant-local folder. So from here, we could run all the standard commands. So I'm going to ls-la. So what this is doing is listing out in the long form and showing the invisibles of all the files and folders that you have at your disposal. All right, so now I'm going to clear the screen. I use Control L for that, and it's a good command because it allows you to scroll backwards, but it clears the screen so that way you're working towards the top of the screen. All right, so next what you're going to do is type out the command vagrant space up and then press enter or return. This process will take some time. It's just going to set up the entire Vagrant system. All right, so here we see that I got an error, and this is something you might run into. So I'm going to demonstrate what to do if you get into this type of situation here. So if you just read the error, it's basically saying that VirtualBox is reporting another VM with that name already existing. All right, so what I'll do here is I'm going to open up VirtualBox, and we see this one here. So I'll just remove this VM right there. So now that's done. Let's go back over here. And now let's try that again. Again, the process will take some time. And we get the error again because I did not take care of the second issue over here. So what I'll do here is go into my File Explorer. I'm going to go here into my users, my user account. And then I'm going into the VirtualBox VM section. So we have this folder here, and you're not going to face this when you first install it. I'm facing it because I already have it installed and I'm running through this process again. But if you do run into this issue, then this is how you resolve it. I'm just going to delete that box there. And actually for this purpose, I'm going to delete this folder as well, just so I start off from scratch. Then I'll go back to my terminal. I'll press the up arrow to get the Vagrant up command again, or you could just type out Vagrant up, press enter, return, and then it'll start the process of installing Varying Vagrant Vagrants. It's going to bring up the default machine. As you see, it's importing the base box. It's going to take care of your MAC address for networking. It's going to run through its process of setting everything up for you. It will take some time. Just let it run its process, and once it's done, you'll be able to start working with VVV. You might actually have time for a cup of coffee, so if you want to get that, go right ahead. How's that cup of coffee? Yeah, because this thing's taking a minute. What it has to do is download a bunch of packages. It has to set everything up properly on your computer to make sure that VVV is going to run properly. As you see here, it's bringing down Ruby. It made sure you had Node.js on your system and brought down pretty much all the packages that's required in order to get this done. Alright, so finally we made it to this point. So now what we can do now is go back to our browser, open up a new window or a new tab, and type out vvv.test. And we're going to see if this worked. And it did. It brought this browser window up. Now yours is going to look a little bit different than mine's because I already have some other test websites that I set up. But by default, you're going to have the WordPress default one here and the WordPress develop. These four are different types of sites and themes that I'm working on. All right, so let's take a look at here. Basically, what we did was we set up VVV on our computer. We're leaving everything running in Git Bash or in command prompt or terminal. We're not going to close this out. And if you go to any of these URLs, open up in a new tab, you're going to see you have a local installation of WordPress set up. It's going to be the same for all of them. All right, so what can you do from here? Well, obviously you can log in. And the default password for this local WordPress installation is always going to be admin and password. Press enter or return. And now you're into the back end of your local WordPress website. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close down some of these pages here. And what I'll do is I'll show you the folder structure next. So I'm going to go into my File Explorer here. I'll go back to that Vagrant-Local folder, and you see the files that we have here, and you see the folders that we have. You can also see that again by going into Git Bash. I'm going to clear the screen, type out ls-la. You see that these files and folders correlate or correspond with the same files and folders I have here in my File Explorer. So we have the vvv-config.yml file that we copied and created it as a vvv-custom.yml file. You're going to leave the original one there, but you have your custom one here. Then if you go into the www folder, that's where your default websites are going to be. And then you can go into the folders and you're going to see what's in there as well. In the public_HTML folder is where you actually have your WordPress installation. These are the WordPress core files and folders. If you go into WP-content, that's where you're going to have your themes and plugins. Go into themes, that's where you have your themes. So if you're working on a custom theme, this is where you would place that custom theme. If you're working on a custom plugin, you would put it right here. And now what I'll do here, I'm going to open up a folder. I'm using Visual Studio Code. And again, you're going to go to the www folder, and then you can go into any one of the site folders that you have. I'll go into the WordPress default, public_HTML, WP-content, and you see that we're here. Or you could just open up the entire www folder if you want. I'll select that, and now we have all the folders there, so you can see them. Again, some of these are not going to be in your version because I did create these sites, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. But this is where you can start drilling down into the actual files and folders themselves. All right, so how do we add additional sites? Let's say we don't want to work on just one installation. Let's say we want to work on different installations for various purposes. All right, so how do we do that? The first thing we're going to have to do is go back to our code editor. I'm going to open up the VVV-custom.yaml file, YML file. And I'm also going to open up the regular config one as well. I'm going to split them to the right. So over here, matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll put the custom one on the right hand side. All right, so we have the original one, the one that we're not actually changing, is going to be on the left side. And then we have the custom version of our YAML file is going to be on the right side. All right, so we're going to see the changes that I made in my version versus the standard version. All right, we scroll down towards the sites section. All I did to create additional sites was I took the WordPress default, I copied it, and spacing matters in YAML file. So you want to make sure that your spacing is correct. But I copied it and I pasted it here. And then I renamed it to that particular site. So EvoPro for this one. I took the custom template from GitHub, which is the same one that the default is using. Now in more advanced setups, you could have a custom configuration on GitHub that you could pull down from. But that's a topic for another video. Then for the host, I just named it evopro.test. Then I did the same thing for another site and another one and another one. Here you see you have two. Over here you see I have the default one, my 4 custom sites, and then the develop one. And they have some instructions here as well, so you can follow those. These are hashtag or the £, these are comments. So this information here is commented out, meaning that the YAML file is not going to process this information. It's only going to process what's not commented out. And if you scroll down, you see the utilities and the core. And if you go down even further, you see the VM config section. On the standard config file, it says memory 2048. I have a little bit more memory on my computer, so I allocated 4096 to this one. And I allocated 2 cores for this as well, just to give it a little bit more power and speed. All right, so that's how you do that. So let me do the same thing now. I'm going to create another site here. I'll just copy this. I'm going to shrink that screen there. I'm going to go down. I'm going to paste it in. Make sure everything lines up properly. I'm going to rename this example. And then I'll rename this one here example.test. So again, I'm doing this in the custom file. From there, I'm going to save it. And now if we go to our browser here, you see how I currently have these. If I reload, we see I now have this one here. But it's not working. Why is that? It's showing it here just like the other ones. The other ones work, but this one isn't. And the reason is because your new configuration is not taking effect. We have to reprovision Vagrant for this. All right, so you see the information right here. When you're going to add, remove, or change sites, you have to modify your custom.yml file. Then reprovision using vagrant space reload space -- provision. So we're going to go back over here into Git Bash. Then I'm going to type out that command. Vagrant space reload space -- provision. And then press enter or return. Let it run its process. It's going to reprovision your Vagrant box. This process will take some time again because it's reprovisioning your entire box. Alright, so once it's done running, let's go to our folder structure. Let's go here. We now see that we have a new folder there. It's been provisioned and has all the themes and plugins that come with the standard WordPress installation. And if we go to our browser window, let's reload. I'm going to exit out of these screens now, these tabs, and I'm going to open up a new incognito window for Chrome. And now let's see if we can get in there. We see it's up and running. And now we see that example.test shows up. The reason why I closed out of Chrome is because of cache issues and things of that nature. So even if you're on incognito mode, it's very possible that the previously viewed page is still stored in memory. So by closing out of the browser and reloading it or opening it up again, you now get to see the new configured website. All right, so this is VVV, Varying Vagrant Vagrants. Now, why would you want to use this in place of something like MAMP or XAMPP or any of the other providers out there? Well, I've been working with VVV for a while now, testing it out, seeing how it'll impact my workflow. And one thing I found is that it's significantly faster than using something like MAMP. Yes, getting set up does take a little bit of work, but once you're set up, it actually works faster, in my experience. Now, I'm on pretty modern software and hardware, and I have a pretty good development environment set up. So when I notice there's a speed difference from using one solution versus another, to me, time is money. So I definitely recommend trying out Varying Vagrant Vagrants. Now, what are some other commands you could use with it? Because there's obviously more commands you could use. All right, so let's go back over here. I'm going to clear the screen. And if you want to turn VVV off, you type out Vagrant halt, and that will shut down the virtual machine. It's going to run through its process and just let it do what it has to do. If for some reason it ever seems like it's stuck, then you could use the flag of dash force. So it would be Vagrant space halt space dash force. All right, so you see it ran through its process. If we go back over here and reload, now you see that it no longer works. And over here, the same thing. All right. So now let's get it up again. Vagrant up. It's going to bring up the default machine, run through its process, let it do what it has to do. And once it's done, we can go back to our browser. Let's reload the page. And again, you might have to close off Chrome and open up a new Chrome browser window. And let's try that out again. And now we see we're back up and running. And if you go to the various URLs, they should all work. All right, so that's pretty much how VVV works. And actually, we can go further over here. If you look on the right-hand side, you see you have phpMyAdmin. So if you click on that, it's going to open up the database administration page. You're going to have to log in. So for that, you would just type out WP and then WP for the username and password. And then you see you have your database over here. So now we can go into this one right here. We see we have our database tables. We have the users, the meta, term taxonomy, term relationships, the terms, term meta, post meta, options, links, comments, and comment meta. So this is phpMyAdmin. And then you can get some more information over here about some of the other items that you have set up. So you can check out your PHP information. As you can see, we're currently using version 7.2.9 and on Ubuntu 14.04.1. And there's some more information that you could check out over here as well. Now this opens up a world of opportunity because unlike some other setups, you could really work with this via the command line and get into WP CLI and some other advanced functionality that you really don't get set up with some of the other solutions out there. But that's a more advanced setup and videos, and I'll create that in a future date. I just wanted to introduce you to Varying Vagrant Vagrants for WordPress theme and plugin development. Again, all you would have to do is in the folders that you're working with. Let's say I'm going to be working over here. This will be a WordPress installation. If I'm creating a theme, I'll put the theme here in this folder. Plugins will go there, and it functions just as it would with any other solution, but it's made specifically for WordPress development. All right, so that's how to get it set up. Again, you're going to need to download Vagrant from HashiCorp. You're going to have to download VirtualBox. This is the website for that. I do recommend getting Git installed from the inception, so that way you could use Git Bash very early on. You would just download them and install them just like any other programs. And then if you need any additional help, the documentation pages are over here at Varying Vagrant Vagrants.org. And this is what the site looks like. So it gives you the basic introduction. It talks to you about what it actually is and what you get when you install VVV. You get Ubuntu, you get the WordPress develop, the stable release, the CLI, and you get all these other tools with it. If you run into trouble, issues might pop up. The troubleshooting section is pretty good. So you can go through here, and sometimes you might just have to do a fresh start. So you would do git checkout master from your Vagrant Local folder. You would do a git pull, Vagrant up, Vagrant destroy, Vagrant box update, and then you would go through this process here. And then if you run into any errors, you'll be notified of what the errors are. And they might be that the machine is corrupted for some reason or another. And the way to deal with that is you would go into your user folder, go to your VirtualBox VMs, and if you need, delete any of the referenced folders that are there. It'll let you know within the comments of the error itself. And if you also need to remove it from VirtualBox, you would just open up VirtualBox and you would just take care of it there if it's referenced. So the troubleshooting page on varyingvagrantvagrants.org gives you some basic information on how to troubleshoot your installation if you run into problems. And if you need to keep everything up to date, you would just follow this command over here. Again, in your vagrant-local folder, you would type out git pull and then vagrant reload -- provision. Or you can do a more thorough update itself by following the steps over here. Now, take note, this is for development purposes. It's not really meant for anything else. So if you're going to actually be using real content on it, it's going to be important to make backups of your database and stuff. Now, if you ever need to delete the folders, as I mentioned from over here, that doesn't impact your other folder here. So in the beginning, I deleted my VMs, but it didn't get rid of any of my other folders. They stayed there. So that's good. But if you need to delete anything, the folders from your VMs, you might lose your databases and things of that nature. Try to make a backup of it, but just in case, it's always good to have a downloaded version of your file. So if you're over here, let's say I'm in this example database right here, and I want to export it. I'll just click on the export button. I'll click on custom. Compression, I'll make it zipped. I want to make sure that all the tables are selected. Then you'll scroll down and click on go. And then it'll download the example.sql.zip file. That way, if you do have any data that's on there that's important, say you're doing a local development of a production site that you're creating and you're actually creating the content locally, then you want to always make sure you have a backup of that, just in case something gets corrupted for whatever reason. And that way you don't lose all your data. So just keep that in mind. But this is Varying Vagrant Vagrants. It's specifically tailored for WordPress theme and plugin and core development. It comes with everything you need to develop, and I find it to be significantly faster than some of the other solutions. Alright, so again, if you need any more information, just check out the official documentation pages for Varying Vagrant Vagrants. I think it's a great option for WordPress developers. Give it a shot and let me know what you think. If you want more advanced tutorials on how to work with WP CLI, let me know down in the comment section and I'll definitely put that on my to-do list. And if there's any other videos that you think I should create, let me know. Also, just as a reminder, you have this reference section here. Gives you your default credentials, just in case you need access to that. Alright, so hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, smash that notification icon so that way whenever I create new videos, you'll be notified. And share this with anyone else you think might benefit from using Varying Vagrant Vagrants, aka VVV, for local WordPress development. And I will see you next time. Take care.